Welcome back to the world of survival horror. In this video, we will cover how your character can interact with the world and how skill checks work in the game. We begin in a rather dire situation. Jenny Li, Matthew White, and Officer Reynolds are surrounded on all sides by a zombie horde. Their backs are really against the wall here. There are certainly too many monsters to fight, so it seems the best choice would be to try and escape by vaulting over the yellow barricades behind them. The Game Master determines that a character could do this in one of two ways. Either they could attempt to jump or vault over the barricade, which would require an agility skill check, or they could try to climb over it, which would require a strength skill check. Each player can decide which method they prefer. No matter which they choose, the Game Master determines the difficulty of the skill check, otherwise known as the DC. This is the score that the players must match or exceed on their skill check in order to succeed. In this instance, the Game Master sets a DC of 6, as the barricades are fairly short in height and have footholds and a slight slope to them, which makes them easier to clamber over. The full details on how skill checks work can be found in section 3 of the complete rulebook, starting on page 17. But to summarise, first each player must roll a d20. Next, they apply the relevant stat modifier to their score. For Jenny Li, this modifier is a +1, as she attempts to vault the barricade. Her total score was an 8, which was enough to succeed at the agility skill check. As a result, Jenny successfully makes it over the barricade. Officer Reynolds also manages to succeed on his skill check, but Matthew has a poor result. He does not score high enough to beat the DC of the skill check that was 6, and so he stumbles and the zombies close in. Without looking back, Jenny decides to try and move over the bins. This time the obstacle is much taller, and so the Game Master determines that she must climb and so attempt a strength skill check in this instance. There are no handholds this time either, although Officer Reynolds declares that he will help give her a boost. Because of this, the GM sets the DC of the climb check to 8. Jenny is not as strong as she is agile, so she applies a -1 modifier to the skill check, but fortunately, she rolls high enough to succeed and scramble on top of the bin. Meanwhile, Matthew has tried to vault the barricade again and made it, yet those zombies are hot on his heels. 3 of them have also tried to give chase over the barricades, with one successfully climbing over and another 2 throwing themselves over but falling prone in the process. Realising that Matthew will struggle even more with the bins, both Jenny and Officer Reynolds decide to help him with the next climb skill check. This makes the DC of the check lower than what Jenny had to achieve, dropping from an 8 to a 6. For guidance on how to determine the DC in any given situation, check out page 18 of the rulebook. Matthew performs a strength skill check to climb and scores a 9. He's made it onto the bins, but those zombies sure are hungry. They're refusing to give up. Officer Reynolds bravely insists that he does not need any help to climb up and orders Jenny and Matthew to keep moving ahead. Officer Reynolds attempts a DC 10 strength skill check to try and climb the bins, and he succeeds. That was close. Matthew and Jenny, meanwhile, have dropped into the next area. It seems the only way the characters can escape now is by heading through that blue door. Except that it seems all of the commotion has alerted some zombie dogs, and one of them stands between our characters and their means of escape. Could this situation get any worse? Officer Reynolds proposes a radical and desperate idea. They need to climb the wall behind them. As insane as this may sound, our characters agree to try. Page 43 of the rulebook describes climbing in detail, but to summarise, each character will need to perform a strength skill check just as before. The Game Master determines that the difficulty to succeed in this climb is 18, as although the brickwork provides some grip, it is in most aspects a sheer surface. Additionally, the table on page 43 reveals that a character will need to score at least a 12 to maintain their grip on the wall. If they fail to meet the DC of 12, they will fall. If that wasn't bad enough, a character that succeeds the score of 18 can only move 1/4 of their speed value instead of the full value. This means that instead of moving 20 feet as standard per climb, they can only move 5. maybe this wasn't such a great idea after all. Yet somehow miraculously, let's say Jenny and Matthew managed to climb well enough to reach the top. Note that they didn't necessarily need to beat the DC 18 climb check each time, provided they at least made the DC 12 skill check, they would not fall. Wow, it's a long way down, isn't it? At least they're safe for now. All that's left is for Officer Reynolds to pass this final climb skill check, and now with Jenny and Matthew's help, he only needs a DC of 14 to make it, or 8 to hold on. Oh dear. Officer Reynolds could not hold on, and so he starts falling. Page 45 of the rulebook shows you how to calculate fall damage from any height, but in this instance, poor Officer Reynolds falls a distance of 40 feet, thus suffering 21 kinetic damage. Even if he were to survive the fall, he's now helpless against the monsters below. Jenny and Matthew can only look on in terror as the selfless hero meets a tragic end. I wonder how they'll manage without him in the world of survival horror.